Alright then, lads, ladies, and those of us who know better. My name is Jackson MTT Kenny, and welcome back to Bold and Bright. You might remember that last November I did a two-part series rounding up my Inktober. Yeah, I'm not doing it again this time. It was an absolute nightmare, so we're having one part and it's going to be speedrun. Good, conclusion over. Because I need to explain what Pleinairpril is. Pleinairpril is where you draw one landscape painting every day of April, somewhere that isn't your studio. I had to adjust the rules slightly to make up for my own chronic illnesses and some really crappy weather we've been having. So I had to work around it. So my rule became that I had to draw one landscape every day, but I had to start it somewhere that wasn't my studio. I could finish it in my studio later on, but I had to draw them even somewhere like the front garden, the living room. I did stuff on a beach. I did a load of stuff in cafes and libraries. As long as it wasn't actively in my studio the whole time, I called it a win. And if you're curious about the setup and want a more detailed description of it, that's all at the end of Inktober Part 2, which is where I went really in depth about my on-the-go traveling art case thingy. It hasn't changed. So, day 1. I should probably mention that between days 1 and 3, I was a little bit stuck in my own head because I thought, okay, well, I have to draw things that would make sense in my environment, if that makes any sense. So I live in, basically suburban, semi-rural Ireland. So I thought I had to stick to the environment of just regular old Ireland. And look, I love my country very much, and I feel like it gets unfairly represented as rainy and miserable all the time. It's not. We've got our pros and cons, but definitely the first 3 was where I was trying to tell myself, professional artisty people don't do fun backgrounds. You'll see at exactly what point I got out of that mindset. So, day 1, picture of a gate. This is when I was really doubting doing Pleinairpril, so I can see how stiff it is. Day 2, my parents took me on a little impromptu day trip thingy so they could scout out places for a camper van, which meant that I got to sit in a car and take lots of pictures of essentially Irish roads. But I did actually get a cute one of a little loch we were at, and a pied wagtail did actually fly down onto the wall while I was drawing them, so I had to include it. They were really cute. Day 3, first example of no spoons, no reference. Look, I was in the library and falling asleep in my seat, so I'm surprised it turned out that good. Day 4, that was kind of when I cracked a little bit. As I hope I've made blatantly obvious on this channel before, I'm a huge horror fan. And once I started leaning a little bit more into what I actually enjoy and what I actually enjoy, suddenly Pleinairpril got so much more fun and interesting, and the results, I think, look better. So I like stories, and I like horror, and I like horror stories, so I got to play around with that. In particular, day 4 was meant to be in the similar vein of the last 3 of, oh yeah, it's like a wee Irish cottage situation. And then I got bored and went right back to my favorite color combination of dark blue and cadmium orange. And went, ooh, that's spooky, I like it. I really miss the spooky and the fun colors. So I said to frick with everything that was going on with days 1 through 3, I needed to have fun. My other rule was that I couldn't cheat and just include humans in every frame because I need to learn how to draw backgrounds without making the humans the focal point. I did cheat a little bit and told myself that I could use itty bitty silhouettes in a window to add some livelihood, but that was it. I think in the end I meant for that illustration to be more Scottish than Irish, though how you can tell that aesthetically I have no idea. It was just in my head while I did it. And especially over here in Ireland, we have a lot of abandoned houses. There was a wee thing called the famine, and we just had a lot of history where people would up and leave a house. We have a lot of little shells of tiny stone houses around the place. We also call them famine houses, and I think they're spooky and cool. And it reminded me, as I was drawing it, of a short story that I read years ago. It was called The Landlady, and it was written by Roald Dahl. Yes, that Roald Dahl. And the twist wound up being that the lady running the wee inn was actually stuffing her guests. Woo, more taxidermy horror. Not to go on too much of a horror ramble when I said I was trying to speedrun this, but one of my favorite tropes in horror is somewhere that should be safe not being safe. You'll see it a lot in slasher films where they'll call the police and either the police will not believe them or immediately get killed by the thing that's hunting them in the first place. Because it kind of rips away the sense of, oh yeah, but once you get to the cozy wee cottage with the lantern in the window, then you're safe. Once you get to the boat, you're safe. And there's something so good about it, even though it gives me nightmares. Day 5. This is based off another Pinterest image. Just for the record, a lot of these are pretty heavily based off of Pinterest images. I I combined images and I switched around colors, but I do not want to get in trouble for anything copyrighted here, so these are studies. These are not illustrations. They are not going to end up in a book somewhere. I will not be profiting off this whatsoever. These are just doodles I did for fun. Okay, I really don't want to get sued. I'm very busy. But a YouTube channel I follow called, I can't remember if it's Paul or Matthew or Matthew or Paul, but either way, they went somewhere tropical. It looked really sweet and I wanted to draw a beach, so there we went. Day 6. I thought this was going to be boring, just scrolling through it and going, oh yeah, that was based off of a picture on Pinterest, that was based off a picture on Pinterest, that was based off of a picture I saw. But the images I picked, I think, do actually say a little bit about me and what my tastes are and what stories I'm gravitated towards. So you'll see the note there is based off of my original story, Red Snow. Not going to give too many spoilers, but a wee shack cottage thing does burn down in that story. So I wanted to draw that burning down so I could have an idea of it. Day 7, it feels like I'm the only one that remembers that there was a huge uptick in programs about summer camps when I was away. So we had like Camp Lake Bottom, Camp Kikiwaka. Also, I wound up becoming a huge Percy Jackson kid, which had Camp Half-Blood and Camp Jupiter. All in all, I love the aesthetic of American summer camps, even though I know I would have hated to have been in one myself when I was a kid. I can appreciate cabins. Also, I was hyperfixating on Gravity Falls for a lot of this month, so the redwoods just kind of crept up on me. Day 8. Oh boy. A book I read this month was Lost in the Neverwoods by Aidan Thomas. Thank you, Jude, for lending me your copy. I'm sorry my birds tried to eat it. But, not to give too much of a spoiler, but the spooky snowy tree wound up being quite plot relevant. In a way that I genuinely had to put down the book and stare into space for a minute because I could not figure out what had just happened. That's how you know you've done a book well. Day 9. Second example of no spoons. I had no idea what I was doing, the colors weren't working out for me, it was technically based off of a reference image, but it went so badly. So whatever, have a cat, I don't like that picture, we're moving on. Day 10. Another Pinterest image, who could have thought? At this point, I was also trying to branch out a bit because I was going, okay, I've done a couple forests, I've done a couple wee Irelandy thingies, I need to branch out. I've never been in a desert in my life. So it's very far outside my comfort zone. Day 11, looping back to Ireland. I have been on a lot of long car journeys up and down the coast, so I wanted to draw some of that because I have very fond memories of that. I also technically broke my nose human silhouette, but since it's literally just a hand, it's probably fine. Day 12, I was going for Aurora Borealis, but it didn't work out, so I just covered the entire thing in random splodges and hoped it looked like a night sky. Yes, I know that was cheating. Day 13, more Hawaii. Did it turn out great? No. Anything I had to draw straight lines for probably didn't turn out spectacular, but I wanted to go somewhere. But some advice that I got off of my favorite artist, Christian Sava, is that notice where your comfort zone is and then try to do the opposite. So if you naturally draw characters facing towards the left, start drawing them facing towards the right. If you notice that you almost exclusively use some combination of dark blue and cadmium yellow and orange, like I do, I am very guilty of using almost exclusively my favorite colors for a while. I had to branch out. I tried to ban myself from just going to my comfort palette. So there had to be green. And speaking of getting out of my comfort palette, day 14, I went for snowy mountains. I'm actually really happy with how this turned out, but oh my god, that's so far outside my comfort zone. I don't like grey, I don't like white, and I don't like light purple. So by all accounts, I should hate this. But I like the vibe. Also, kind of why I picked a snowy mountain in the first place was that a while ago I got really into watching spooky documentaries, as you do, and there were a lot of stories about hiking parties going missing in blizzards, so that got carried on there. Day 15, I found a picture of a wedding backdrop and kind of ran with it. So it's a little bit Norse mythology because I stuck some mistletoe on there because I thought it was appropriately spooky, and yet more horror stories because I realized after I painted it that the yellow door is very Michael Distortion, and also maybe a little bit Coraline as well. I know her door wasn't technically yellow, but there was a door. So interpret that however you like. Day 16, I truly did not have any idea or reference image for this one, so I just went, okay, what can I do that's different from the other desert at night painting I did? So I just tinted the colors a wee bit and made it darker to lighter instead of lighter to darker. Stuck a wee moody human silhouette and some cacti in there and hoped for the best. It also wound up reminding me of the Rocket Man music video. Yeah, when I was like 12, Rocket Man was my closeted trans anthem. Day 17, I tried to combine a couple images to get a jungle. It didn't work. Yeah, a while in I realized that some of my inks were really, really opaque, so I could just cover up backgrounds if I thought I fricked them up, which is exactly what happened there. At least I think I did the snake a little bit of justice. I love snake. Day 18, we're also skimming over this one because I tried to draw a building and regretted it. By the way, it's based off my short story where one of the main characters works in a pottery studio. Bye! Day 19. Yeah, the Hunger Games got a wee bit of rejuvenation after Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes film came out, but I had already hyperfixated on it a couple years ago, so I was having a blast. So that illustration was based off the song The Hanging Tree, which is so, like, it almost gives me You Are My Sunshine vibes, but like the full version of You Are My Sunshine where it gets really depressing and heartbroken after a while. Yeah. I also tried to angle it a wee bit so that the noose is a wee bit hidden. It's not exactly obvious that it's there, but it's definitely not, not noticeable. Also, I stuck a flock of birds in the background because I wanted to show the mockingjays. Day 20, one of the only days this month where the weather was actually good enough to sit and draw outside. But since I did not have anywhere to go, I just sat in the garden and painted the roof of my neighbor's shed. And a couple trees. Day 21, we're back to the Isles. The original image was actually in like a tropics, maybe Greece sort of environment, very warm and sunny, but I thought it'd be fun to have an abandoned wee boat, so I drew an abandoned wee boat. Also, there was an abandoned boat down the road from our campsite, so I just think it's cool when boats show up in places where they really shouldn't be. Day 22, I wanted to finally go for that tropical theme, and I copied the image almost exactly. It was fun. I missed my bright orange so much. But also I started thinking of this series as something I could put in a PowerPoint presentation and there would be variety in it. So I realized after I did Day 20 and Day 21 that those are both a little bit more toned down. There's a lot of like blue, green, brown. So I wanted to make it a lot brighter for Day 22 to kind of balance that out. And I guess mild trigger warning for just some general queer moroseness, sorry. I was having a bit of a day. I was listening to History Hates Lovers on a loop because I'm me, and for some reason I really wanted to draw a grave. I was going to draw Oscar Wilde, but his is stupid complicated, so I wound up drawing Wanda's grave from Sandman Volume 5, I believe. Yeah, I probably don't need to fill you in on the subtext for this one. You can guess what happened. It was also the only one where I broke my rule of not using things that weren't already in my little art kit. I had to break out some magenta acrylic for that. Day 24, more Pinterest image. Depending on your viewpoint, this could either be cute or absolutely terrifying. For me, it's terrifying. Remember when I said I watched too many spooky documentaries a while ago? Yeah, I watched a couple on people getting stuck in caves. Do me a favor and don't look up Nutty Putty. As stupid as it sounds, it was horrifying. And no, underwater caves. I listened to the episode of the Magnus Archives that ended with your woman going, take her, not me, take her, not me, take her, not me, down a dark tunnel. Yeah, never again. I'm claustrophobic. I don't like it. Day 25. This is hands down one of my favorite ones from here because it went in a completely different direction to what I was expecting. So my original idea was like, okay, maybe some like preteen girls decided to set up a wee tent in their campsite or someone's back garden. You know, very sweet, kind of domestic, bit of childhood nostalgia. And then I added in that autumnal yellow because that moved the context from, oh, maybe they're on their summer holidays and because of the bright evenings they're making a wee fort, cute, and they know it's not going to rain. It changed it from that to, okay, what are they sheltering from? And once I kind of realized how spooky the vibes were getting, I decided to really darken up the inside of the tent, and I did that and went, ooh, still not dark enough. You know what'd be cool? If I added these crazy scratchy lines to the inside that make me feel unsettled looking at it. Just, ooh, the great juxtaposition between like something that was clearly intended to be like a wee girl's tent definitely has something sinister in there. I would not go in myself. Day 26. Okay, I should probably mention that the Magnus Protocol came back off from hiatus, so I got all the spooks into my system. It was great, except for Mr. Bonzo, oh my god. But I'm also into the podcast Malevolent, and they had some stuff going on with the spooky lake a while ago, so it was a lot of spooky energy that needed to get out through like a couple horror illustrations, especially because I was working on some of the more toned down stuff for the Gravity Falls animatic. Day 27, it was based off of When Marnie Was There. Oh, I'm still not over that book or that film. Ugh. Won't give away too many spoilers, but Marnie kind of ups and vanishes a couple times throughout the book. I haven't seen the film in years. I reread the book semi-recently, and there's an illustration in my copy of Anna and Marnie sitting in the reeds that I thought was so goddamn cute and sad that I had to put it in. And now that we're officially getting to the last couple days of Pleinairpril, I had officially let go of my rules about, like, what colors I could use or what compositions or whatever. Something that I also noticed is that I tend to always put the most important thing in the middle. Maybe that comes from, like, a background as an illustrator, but for me, the middle is where your eye goes. So obviously you should put the most important thing where your eye immediately goes. And then I had to follow my own dumb advice, and so I put everything in the middle, which means I should do that less. So from day 27 onwards, for the last 3 days, I tried to make sure that I didn't put the important shite in the middle. Day 28, yeah, I missed my yellow and orange so much while working on these. I should also mention that the Derwent set I've got, I don't really like the red in it. It dries really washed out no matter how much pigment I put into it. And just felt a lot harder to build up warms than it did with cools, because for some reason my brain is a little bit more open to experimentation and learning when it's like fun little ink palettes instead of my watercolor paints. Go figure. So I just tried to dump out some of the warm colors that I'd been craving. Day 29. I tried to combine a couple of images. It went terribly. The original picture was purple. Now it's green because I had to cover up the entire background again. But you know what? I actually prefer it green. I think it went from what was meant to be explicitly a horror illustration, with kind of leaning towards like Daisy from the Magnus Archives vibes, to more like video game energy. I'm not a huge gamer, but I watched a lot of playthroughs. I was a Minecraft kid, I've played a lot of The Sims, and my friend recently got me really, really into Stardew Valley. I also decided to add some fireflies to this one because I cannot get over the fact that America just has glowing insects that casually float around the long grass in the summer. Like, what the hell? That's too fantasy. Oh, but I'm going to have to start really wrapping up now. Day 30, I rewatched Ziran J. Zhao's videos about Chinese history and all the cultural details in Mulan 1 and 2. Unsurprisingly, Mulan 1 was a lot better. We don't discuss the live-action remake. There was no live-action remake. There is no war in Ba Sing Se. But I got to have a wee bit of fun. But I'm glad that I at least got to have a wee bit of fun with Pleinairpril getting outside that comfort zone. Top 3. Spooky Tent, Spooky Cottage, Flowerfield. I wish I could go more in depth, but I've already given pretty lengthy explanations for all of them. I think you could probably guess which ones are my least favorites just based on the commentary I gave. Either way, I'm really glad I did this. If you're considering doing a month-long art challenge, do it. And if you want to join me for Pleinairpril next year, please do that as well. But it was really fun, even though I'm not a landscapes or background person. I draw people and expressions and cool glowy lights. I do not draw trees. You'll also probably notice that there aren't a lot of buildings in this besides wee cottages. That was on purpose. I do not want to draw buildings. Just because I'm getting out of my comfort zone doesn't mean I'm going to make myself miserable. And since that is everything I can think of right now, and I've got something to do immediately after this. Conclusion. I have a Tumblr blog. I'm at Blue Bold and Bright or Jackson MTT Kenny. This podcast puts up a new episode every two weeks, so every other. Thank you very much for listening and watching. My name is Jackson MTT Kenny, and this has been Bold and Bright.